Sonic Mega Collection is a compilation title composed of Sonic games from the Sega Genesis era. It also includes some unlockable titles like Flicky and Rystar, but more relevant to its name would be Knuckles in Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Debatably games that should have been unlocked right from the start, at least for Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and unfortunately the method of unlocking them is rather tedious. For Knuckles in Sonic 2 you have to launch both Sonic 2 and Sonic Spinball 20 times individually, and for Sonic 3 and Knuckles you have to launch both Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles 20 times individually. This is why you'll notice the game log recordings each time you exit a game. I'll admit this was initially my introduction to games like Sonic 3D Blast and even one of my personal favorites, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, and I was always very excited to see a new game get unlocked, thinking that I had accomplished something within the game to unlock them. I thought maybe if you beat a certain game, or maybe if you collected a certain number of emeralds or something similar, but no, every game to unlock is done so through launch numbers. Why couldn't Sonic 3 and Knuckles be unlocked once you first beat Sonic 3? That would have made a lot of sense in my opinion. Even the save transfers over to Sonic 3 and Knuckles so you can continue right from where you left off in the introduction to Sonic and Knuckles. This method is very tedious for someone just trying to get review footage, but even for traditional play this just feels a bit odd. I think I could beat any of these games before launching Blue Sphere, Knuckles in Sonic 2, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and Flicky, despite being an arcade title, a total of 30 times. And that's how many times you need to launch these games to unlock Rystar, not to mention 2 of those games are also unlockables. So if you want to play Rystar specifically, have fun. The game isn't actually mentioned on the box, secret games are, and the game selection will inform you of that, but still, really? This much monotony to unlock one game? Unlocking games is one of the more interesting elements about this collection, which is why I've decided to talk about it first. Despite the odd mechanics there, the rest of the collection suits up to be a very respectable approach to a legacy of classic games. There's a dedicated extras menu, unfortunately not via a hub world like Sonic Jam this time around. In fact, the first time I had ever heard of Sonic Jam was through this collection, where a neatly designed video showcases all the major Sonic games throughout the years, and minor Sonic games. There it showed a short glimpse of Sonic evolving into 3D. For many years I thought this was an actual game and I really wanted to play it, so much so that I almost ended up getting a Sega Saturn, something that I to this day unfortunately haven't gotten around to. Very unfortunate indeed. Besides that neat little look back, there are also a couple of other videos, even the intro and extra to Sonic CD, which was originally planned to be a part of this collection but was scrapped for numerous debatable reasons that a Google search will easily track. It's included in the Sonic Gems collection, released later for the Cube, and you bet we'll be taking a look at that one in the near future. Just outside of this menu, there are a ton of designs and concepts drawn by Sega's development team themselves, taking a deeper look at the transitions throughout the years and how Sonic's concept has evolved with this cool attitude. Though for the truly nostalgic, there are full comic books and cover art from many other classic comic releases from Sonic the Hedgehog. There really is an incredible amount of detail in the extras menu with an equally incredible soundtrack. Now being a compilation game, it's easy to dismiss the collection soundtrack, but it truly is something special. I have a particular fondness for the extras menu music, which really feels like it's taking you down memory lane. Now with all these extras, you'd probably guess that that gets close to the end of it, right? Well no, actually also included are the manuals for each game, besides those which never had a manual to begin with, like the Knuckles add-on possibilities. These manuals can be investigated via the extras menu, but are also accessible from the game selection menu upon selecting a game and pressing X. Goodness, I cannot express how much I love that sound of turning the page in the manuals. It is perfect. The manuals are viewed the same way as the illustrations and comics, which is very easy to navigate, and generally, it's a beautiful execution. You'll have no trouble reading this small print with the available viewing options. The manuals themselves feel like original documents, though likely just being high quality scans since the blacks have a slightly grey tinge to them, which would be the case upon scanning an originally full black print document, at least for those without colors. All the same, it isn't noticeable when reading through them, so it really is as good as it could have been. Even the menu navigation is as good as it could be, with detailed environments for most screens bringing this compilation to life. That's something you're gonna hardly find in collections like this. These types of collections are usually rushed to make some quick profit, but you can tell that wasn't what Sega was going for here. Despite the Plus version coming out later for the PS2 and Xbox, it does feel like they put effort into it, but not nearly as much as the GameCube release with its engaging menu design. They even replaced the extras menu with the game selection screen, which gives it nowhere near the same impact as when going through the relics from Sega's archive. The Plus version has more titles, specifically Sonic games from the Game Gear. It does keep out a number of them, though the rest were included in the Sonic Gems collection release. It also comes with 2 new unlockable Genesis titles, Comic Zone and The Ooze. I've never played The Ooze, but Comic Zone is an intriguing take on a comic book video game that I think is worth a shot for any gamer. Unlocking it is going to be very tedious though, as you'll have to launch each Genesis game 50 times, as far as I've been informed, which is undeniably overkill. Alternatively, you can unlock it with a save of Sonic Heroes in your memory, but I've heard mixed results on how exactly this is done. Some places say you need 40 in-game hours for Sonic Heroes to unlock it, and others say it's done immediately, but I have no further input on that. The Plus release has a save state option, which feels a bit sacrilegious to these games, though you're not obligated to use them. Otherwise, there's not that much else that sets these two apart, though another rumor informed me that there are less extras in this Plus version. I have heard the Xbox version is largely superior for its speed and somewhat more accurate emulation of the titles, but again, I have little experience with it. In addition, I've heard the GameCube version has the best sound emulation of the three, and with more experience of this one, I can say it's usually accurate. There are a couple mishaps here and there, specifically the explosion sounds upon destroying Robotnik or the fireworks in Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, but these are fairly minor complaints. Going from Sonic 3 on the Genesis to the Mega Collection when I was young, I don't recall noticing any difference. So with that said, unlike Sonic Jam, these games are emulated, not recreated. Also unlike Sonic Jam is the difficulty selections, which don't exist here. No, these I believe are straight ROM rips put into the emulation software the disc uses. Your biggest concern with this collection may be the controller, which isn't exactly designed for these types of games. The GameCube's D-pad in particular I've always had a strong distaste for, and I really don't find it to work well with these Sonic games. It's very stiff. The analog stick works well enough, but it's still not the type of control I'd recommend for playing a classic Sonic game. Ultimately, I think Sonic Mega Collection for the GameCube is one of the best executions of a compilation title I've ever come across to date. It shows a lot of respect for the source material and goes above and beyond to demonstrate why Sonic has become such a staple character in Sega's lineup. This takes us back to a time where more than 90% of the Sonic games were released to commercial and critical success, though I suppose making an amazing impression as a staple character for your own console hardware is necessary for sales. Perhaps leading into third-party development gave them less ambition, but that's a topic for someone else to discuss. Sonic Mega Collection gets a big old thumbs up from me, but perhaps look into getting a PS2 controller converter for your GameCube before sitting down with this one. If you aren't really feeling it with the Cube's controller, you can just get it for the PS2 or Xbox, though I think the GameCube version is worth it for the presentation alone.